Right, in today's video we're going to be taking a look at my arrangement of Billie Eilish's Bad Guy from the start of the year. Whoa. Calm down, we'll get to the ending in a bit. Let's get into it. First things first, this is actually a really quiet song. I don't know if you noticed. In fact, most of Billie Eilish's songs are pretty hushed and intimate sounding, but most of the covers that I've seen out there are pretty loud and heavy, which I feel kind of misses the point of the song a little bit. It's a pretty subtle and tongue-in-cheek song, really. So what I've done with my arrangement is I've made it pretty damn quiet. If we look through the score of this arrangement, the loudest dynamic we can find is only mezzo forte. Yeah, apart from the ending, we'll get there. And it goes down as quiet as triple P at the start. Now, I don't usually go beyond pianissimo and fortissimo in my arrangements, in my scores, because that should encompass the full range of dynamics that you can reasonably achieve and perceive as a listener. But to really get the point across that this is a very quiet song, because all these dynamics are relative and sort of have more meaning than just loud and soft, they kind of convey extra meaning. Pianissimo seemed appropriate. Plus, this super quiet dynamic throughout the arrangement really lets the outro rip when it comes in. But we will get there. Shh. Shut up, noise. You damn Brahm. Did you know they're called Brahms? Those big things. That's the industry term for them. Like the composer. Don't know what you'd think of it, but who knows? Brahms didn't write many Brahms in his music, but here we are. Now, as Akav here has pointed out, there are some jazzy chords going on, especially in the second verse. Now, there's a reason for this, and I feel like it's going to become a recurring theme in these videos. How do you make the second verse sound different to the first verse when the only thing in the original that changes really is the lyrics? Now, obviously, I can't change the lyrics because there were no lyrics in verse 1 to change because it's an instrumental arrangement. So what else can we do? There's quite a few ways that we can do it, but in this arrangement, I went for a bit of harmony bending by contorting the harmony into weird shapes, which seems fitting for the song. Although apparently the original harmonies were very carefully picked out and blended together, which does explain why it was so hard to transcribe the tune. But also, sorry guys, I've kind of completely thrown that out the window. Anyway, the chord sequence for the verse is quite a nice simple 1-4-5 in G minor. I kept it in the original key for once, which is nice. All I've done to these chords really is just added a little bit of spice in the second verse. Let's have a look. So we start off on a nice just G minor triad, same as the first verse. Lovely. This little passing chord here is an A diminished chord, which is built off of the melody note, which happens to be the second degree of the minor scale, and it works quite nicely as a little bit of tension and release. Then we get to our 4 minor chord, which is C minor in this key, which I've harmonized as a C minor 9. So that's a C minor with a flat 7 and a 9th. But because it's missing the root, it actually ends up sounding like an E flat major 7. Now, I really like the semitone tension here between the trombone and horn. It really adds a nice spiky sound to the chord. Our passing chord from this C minor to the next chord is a D augmented chord, or a D with a sharp 5. Notice how the trombone drops down, effectively resolving the 9th of the C minor chord to the root, which allows all of the voices to move up in parallel to this D augmented chord. Then on the 5 chord, we get a really tightly voiced, crunchy cluster as the melody moves down and the trombone continues on its upward trajectory. Now, I think this is probably more of a cluster than an actual chord, but functionally you could think of it as an alteration of the 5 chord. It's a D chord with a flattened 9th and an added 4th without the root. What can you do? In my mind, it kind of sounds like the feeling of grabbing a thistle. And then we cadence to an A diminished 7th, which you could also think of as a D7 flat 9 without the root. And we're coming to it from an A half diminished 7th. So basically this is just a nice 2-5 with a little passing fella in between. And this inevitably leads us back to the 1, the root, in the next bar. It's a classic jazz cadence. Now, if that was a lot of theory for you to take in all at once, don't you worry. The next phrase only gets more intense. Though, to be honest, when I was arranging it, I wasn't thinking so much of what the chords were, but more where the individual parts were going. I think this is the beauty of arranging with just 5 voices. It kind of makes you think less in vertical voicings and more you sort of pick chords that you're aiming for, nice chords that you're aiming for, and then you fill in the gaps in between. And this is evident in the next phrase. I won't go into a full detailed run through of every single chord, but I will put the score up on the screen now so you can screenshot it, you can study it, you can play it, whatever. Let's just look at these two bars here. We're on the C minor chord of the chord sequence, the 4 chord of the sequence, and the trombone has a little moving part just to shake things up a little bit. It goes from a natural 6th to a sharp 7 to a flat 7, which takes the tension on a bit of a journey from medium to high to low, ending up resolved, if only briefly, at the end. And then the final mention goes to this little E natural in the flugelhorn part, which just brightens up this 5 chord just a touch to give you a glimmer of hope before all your dreams are shattered in the next phrase. I really like this move from a flat 9 to a major 9 or natural 9 on a dominant 7 chord. It's a note borrowed from the parallel major, in this case G major, which is why it has that little bright lift to it. I could go on about all these chords here and all of this stuff, but I think that's enough theory for one video. So let's look at the end, where all your Western classical harmony just goes straight out the window. Now, the ending of this tune is arguably the best bit. It's certainly my favourite bit of the song, but a lot of these covers actually miss it out. Now, why is that? Well, there's no melody, I guess, but that wasn't going to stop me. Basically, I've taken the rhythms of Billie Eilish's spoken word bits, put them onto the instruments, and then harmonised them with cluster chords that sound really mean and gritty. There's no theory here, really. I just played around on a keyboard until I found some chords and clusters that sounded insidious enough for my liking. Here's one, here's another, here's another. Yeah, they're just very tightly voiced with uneven intervals, no notes sort of repeat, very atonal apart from the drone, the G drone at the bottom, which kind of anchors it still in kind of G minor, but for the most part it is all just atonal. And then we've got this fun little bit where the trombone just kind of slides down over the rhythm without hitting any specific pitches, which kind of mimics the way that Billie Eilish phrases this when she says it. And that's a little fairly theory heavy peek into this little arrangement of mine. I hope you're enjoying these new style of videos. Obviously drop a comment downstairs with any suggestions of my old arrangements that you'd like me to look at in this sort of detail, in this sort of fashion. That'd be great. I'm already working on some of the suggestions from the previous arrangement breakdown video. Some of them are arrangements that I'm quite proud of, so that's nice to know that you enjoy the ones that I enjoy. Also, check out my Patreon for even more of these videos, as I'll be uploading one of these videos for each new brass arrangement that I do release on this channel. And finally, subscribe, share, like, and all that good YouTube stuff. See you on Wednesday.